Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, SchuZ Show. Hope you guys had an incredible weekend. With that being said, though, starting off today's show, I have a very special guest joining me. He's a man with a 42-0 record, 31 of those wins coming by way of knockout. It's Abel Mendoza. Abel, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to get into a couple things first before we get into your career and some of those things. One of which is you're talking about your nickname, King Abel. Also, you go by El Zorro. Can you take us through the backstory between those two names? Like, where do those come from? Why do you go by those names?
Well, the King Abel, I kind of got it on Instagram. Like it just kind of was available, whatever was
Okay.
like, like a name available on Instagram. I thought it sounded pretty cool. I am King Abel. Uh, and then El Zorro is kind of like there's uh, like a guy that used to kind of like a little Red Robin Hood that used to help out where my the town where my family's from in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And he would help out like the community from what I hear. And they said, "Hey, isn't so and Zorro from there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he is from there." And they're like, "That's kind of why they gave me that nickname as well."
All right, man. Well, I got one other thing I want to ask you about too, and it's something I found that was really unique about you, and it's kind of talking about something that's not boxing related, but you have a special Valentine's tradition. I just want to pick your mind out a little bit because that's also a really cool thing you do. So I want to hear the story behind that. Like, just where did that also come from? Why did you start doing that? Just take us to the backstory of that.
Yeah. So actually, my mom used to work at a nursing home,
Okay.
so she used to like work with the elderly a lot, and sometimes she would take me to her work, and I would visit her and I would go there. So, um, you know, I I was thinking about Valentine's, and I'm like, wait, maybe I should go and do something for Valentine's, and I just kind of
Mhm.
thought about it. So that's kind of where that idea came from, my mom.
Love that, man. Well, let's get into some of your careers because I just got started with one question specifically for you. We look at your resume, 42-0, 31 wins come by knockout. Obviously, you haven't chosen this path. You're going to fight more consistently, and you build up this record. And some people say, okay, is it stat pad? Is it not? Whatever you want to say along those lines. The point is, you are 42-0 at this point in your career. So I want to ask you this question then, because when you look at people and people are going to go judge your record based upon your resume and who you find, so on and so forth, but you are 42-0. You still are a guy that people consider as someone that legitimately does deserve a bigger fight in the future. What's your response to them? Why do you believe that your record, although 42-0, although it might not be against the top competition, that you are ready to go fight against those top guys?
Because, like, you know, like it's why don't they give me like a shot, like somebody at the top five? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's guys that are 10-0 that have gotten that opportunity.
Fair.
There's guys that like Andy Cruz. He's like at 5-0, he got an opportunity. So why not somebody that's 42-0? I've fought for regional belts for the WBC, regional belts for the WBA. I fought world title uh, challengers. So I just think I deserve an opportunity.
I'm going to go through some of these lists. And these are just things that's been rumored about you about possible fights. I believe you were going to be the backup fighter for Raleigh or Ryan if one of them pulled out there on that fight. You talk about another guy, Kermel Moat. I know you're trying to get your replacement to replace Kidasi and Shakur Riyadh season last year. When you talk
Yeah.
about where you're at right now, and in regards to start with the first one, when you talk about the Ryan Garcia Raleigh, was that official then? So if something would have happened to either one of those two guys that you would have been fighting on Friday in Times Square?
So like I told him I was like, hey, I'm ready. I'm here um for any reason. So they knew I was, you know, uh, there's nothing said on contract,
Okay.
but I've always stayed ready because you never know. These opportunities just they come out of nowhere. But you know, I, you just have to always stay ready.
When you talk about what you want next, you haven't fought now since December 4th of last year. Obviously, I'm sure you're looking for a fight right now. Is something in the works? Do you have something set up that you want to do pretty soon? Where do you see what your next fight's going to be?
Right now, just stay ready. I really don't want to fight just to fight anymore.
Okay.
I'm trying to fight, like, like contenders. So I could have gotten a whole bunch of fights already. I turned down a lot of fights,
Hmm.
but unless it's like it's a minimum fight or a contender or like on a big card or some type of exposure, then I'm not taking just any fight because I already have 42 fights. I need fights that are meaningful, and it's hard turning them down because I love to fight. Like I wish I could fight every weekend. That's why I have 42 fights because I love to fight. But I just stay patient.
You kind of answered a little bit to what I was going to actually ask you next, and that is in regards to your game plan. When you talk about trying to book that next fight, are you at a position? Like I said, you already seem to be having your name thrown out there with the Rawling and Ryan trying to be filling there, the Kid Austin replacement for Shakur, those type of things. Is that really what you're targeting? Like you said, you don't really want to step your foot in the ring again until you're fighting, whether it be a champion, a top contender. Is that pretty much all you're going to settle for? Like that's what you want next?
Um, no, I won't settle just for that. I
Okay,
mean, ultimately, that is the plan to get one, like a big name.
sure.
But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I do want like fights on big cars. Uh,
Hmm.
whoever I work with, we'll see.
So when I talk about the 42-0 record, and for yourself, I know you haven't always been promoted by a big company yet, and so your way of kind of building yourself up, building your name has probably been going the route of staying consistent, fighting, getting 42 fights on your record now. Is that something that you've always been? How, I mean, I guess how have you kind of gotten through that process? Because I know a lot of times it becomes, I don't want to say easy, but obviously to grow yourself, get fights, having promotions bigger for you guys in boxing. Is that been something that you've been in negotiations or talking to any other promoters? Has that been something that at any point in your career you've discussed? Or what's kind of led to the decision of you going pretty much for the most part, not going underneath of one of the big stables?
Yeah, I mean it's been me pretty much on my own.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's been difficult, but I think now I think I got good, advice.
Hmm.
Um, so I think something good's gonna come soon.
Is there a certain timeline where you see yourself possibly returning to the ring?
Uh, who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, but I do. I'm staying ready. I'm staying ready. No, there's not a timeline, honestly,
Okay.
but I'm staying ready.
Absolutely, man. Well, a couple other things I want to get into too is one of which is when you talk about some of the guys at the weight class, you kind of are going around between 135 specifically at lightweight. You have guys obviously in the mix. Kid Austin's there. You have guys like Carmelo and you have Abdullah Mason. I know that's been a rumored guy before people have talked about. Is there somebody, if you could pick somebody that you want to go fight that, even if it's not a champion, something that you would see like right now would make sense for you to go fight, who would that guy be?
Uh, I think me and Pitbull would make sense.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that would be a good fight
What about him stands out to you?
because I just think we would make a great fight. I think the guy that fought last, I think I was in a better position. I'm undefeated. He got the opportunity, and now he get opportunity at an undefeated fighter like me. Uh, so I think that makes sense for everyone.
If you were to get the opportunity, how would you see that fight going down?
I I would see it a war.
Mm,
'Cause I like to go to war. He likes to go to war. I think it would be uh, a, the fight of the year.
okay.
Right.
For those that have not been familiar with your fight style, the way that you fight, what you bring to the ring when you step in there, how would you describe yourself?
I think that I like to bang. You know, I'm I go to war. Of course, I'm smart. I like to fight. I like to run. Uh, so I think that's my.
Hey, once that you cut out there on the back end of that, can you hear me coming through?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, you're good there. Can you just repeat that last part? I kind of cut out there for a little bit.
I said I just like to bang. I like
Mhm.
to give people a good fight.
When you talk about your career now, you're 29 years old. and you continue going through this portion now, if you were to say, okay, in the next 12, 18 months of my life, what are the things that you want to accomplish? What are the things you want to get done? Where do you see yourself in 1 year?
Uh, I want to become a world champion. That's the ultimate goal, is to become a world champion, get a title shot. Hello, hello, hello. Can't can't really hear you, brother. Uh, yeah, I don't hear you. just staying ready, man, staying sharp, and waiting for that phone call. You know, we'll see what happens, man. I'm just taking it day by day, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. If it's not, then it's not. You know. I think I want people to remember like the positive things that I do. Who I am outside the ring, and just just try to do just try to be the best that you are. Not really like not not really like what I did, like I guess inside the ring, but who I was as a fighter, as a person. You know. Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for always having me on. Thank you. You too. God bless.
Testing, 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 testing. Check, check, check. Welcome back to the SchuZ Show, everybody. I'm your host, Zach SchuZ Shoemaker. Hopefully, I got everything set up now. Technically, that was obviously not what I was expecting to have happen. But for those of you that want to see the Abel Mendoza interview, I will have that edited out, clipped up, and get it all put together the correct way in a couple hours, probably by about 8, 9 o'clock tonight. So you guys can go check that out without all the issues there. But hopefully, everything's working out. If there are ever technical difficulties that I'm not aware of, make sure to leave that in the comment section. I'll get that fixed right as soon as possible. That being said, though, it's time to get into some stuff. On Friday night, I last talked to you guys following the Times Square card, and y'all heard my thoughts on what I thought about that card. We're not going to go back into that. But what I said on the Friday card was we have Saturday and Sunday to look forward to. Boy, did I not expect what I was going to see on Saturday. There was a polar opposite between the Saudi Arabia card and the card in Top Rank in Las Vegas. And that's what I'm going to dive into today. I feel like this almost deserves two entirely different segments because of the trash that we witnessed on Saturday opposed to what we witnessed on Sunday. However, let's go break them down. There's no other way I could start off any other card than with Canelo versus William Scull. What an atrocity that fight was. For those that do not know the scores, Saul Canelo Alvarez defeats William Scull by unanimous decision 115-113, 116-112, 119-109. Can I say this, though? A lot of people, specifically the broadcast team, which let me say this real quickly. The broadcast team, I usually am a massive fan of the DAZN broadcast team. I think they do an incredible job. I don't know what was going on Saturday night, why they felt like that was the time to go all in on saying about Canelo Alvarez for I think about 9 rounds. I feel like all of a sudden maybe somebody told him in the ear, you guys should probably cut it out because it's not looking really good. That was a disgrace to begin with. Let me just say that. I do not know why the broadcast team for the Canelo Alvarez fight wanted to time and time again act like Canelo was dominating this fight, was never losing a single round. All the biasness was extremely unprofessional, in my opinion. And I think it was a horrible broadcasting in that entire fight. That being said, though, let's get into the actual fight themselves. What this reminds me of was 2 guys that just did not want to fight. Now, let's start off with William Scull because, yes, if we were going to go down to a personal relationship in 2 fights, a lot of times people would say, hey, well, he started it. Okay, well, yes, William Scull did start this thing. So let's discuss you first of all. William Scull has an opportunity of a lifetime to go out there and fight against the guy of this generation, at least one of the guys, a future first ballot Hall of Famer, an all-time great. You have a chance to go make a name for yourself. And your game plan is to go down the ring for an entirety of 12 rounds. Now, listen. Did it work to a certain extent for him? Because he got 115, 113 on the scorecard. He was only down by a round right there. So that was fine in and of itself. But that's not how you leave a mark. Now your name is tarnished from the boxing world. An absolutely disgrace for what we witnessed there. William Scull did not want to win that fight. William Scull wanted to go 12 rounds. We have already talked about this happening the past couple of fights against Canelo Alvarez. Guy just wanted to last 12 rounds. Edgar Berlanga, yes, I'm talking about you. However, William Scull said, hey, hold my beer. I'm going to go 10 times worse than what you just did, Edgar Berlanga. And I'm going to go out there and dance around and run circles around Canelo Alvarez for the entirety of 36 minutes in that ring. Absolutely embarrassing. You had everything to possibly gain in that fight, and yet you just want to show up out there and just go 12 rounds with Canelo? At the very same time, Canelo, being the more mature, older, more established veteran, knows how to fight in these situations. Don't tell me Canelo Alvarez does not know how to cut off the ring and throw and go after guys. Canelo Alvarez saw the way William Scull was deciding to go fight that fight and still decided to do this methodical, I don't know what he was doing, just standing there, chasing him down, if you will so say, in that entirety of the fight. It was not good. It was horrible fighting. Canelo Alvarez is much, much better than that. There is no excuse for what Canelo Alvarez brought to the table in that fight. No excuse. So I'm not just going to sit up here and just single-handedly rip William Scull. At the very same time, no, it's frustrating to see what Canelo did in that fight. Canelo could have very easily cut off the ring. He could have very well won an attack, and he could have very well changed things. He's better than that. He's a pound-for-pound top 10 guy, even at his older ages now, and he's more than capable of stopping that stuff from happening. So he chose to go in there and still continue in that fight. And let me go into details here. And this is kind of a crazy statement to say, but if Canelo Alvarez was not the guy that William Scull was fighting, you could make a legitimate case that William Scull won that fight. Now, in my opinion, nobody won that fight. Not the fans, neither the fighter, nobody. That fight was a disgrace to boxing. Absolute disgrace. But if we're going to be honest here, round 1 was given to Canelo Alvarez. Let me give you guys just a quick stat. You can take this how you want to do it in round 1. Canelo Alvarez had 0 punches landed on William Scull in round 1. William had 1. Yes, that is pathetic. In a 3-minute round, we had 1 punch landed. Canelo Alvarez had 0. And yet Canelo Alvarez was given and awarded that round. If we're going to be honest, 1 is greater than 0. You could very easily, and in fact, I did give the round 1 to William Scull. Does anyone deserve that? No, it's a pathetic round, but that's the way that round should have been scored. But yet Canelo Alvarez got the first round. Canelo Alvarez has the name, has the imaging, everybody knows who he is, so yes, he has the automatic advantage. And I'll be quite frankly honest, because of the way that William Scull fought, I'm not, like I said, nobody deserved to win this fight, but if we're just going to give it to one guy, Canelo Alvarez deserved it. Sure, he didn't deserve it. He got the win, and I'm fine with him getting the win. Why? Because William Scull does not deserve to be anywhere near the big stage ever again. And as for Canelo Alvarez, it's a big fight set up against a guy who will bring it to him, Bud Crawford. I see your comment, Eduardo. I'm going to break that down very, very shortly. That's a fight I will preview very shortly. But Canelo Alvarez gets the win. It is what it is. Embarrassing fight from start to finish. Both guys are to blame for that fight, and including at the same time, the broadcast team can be blamed too for making the experience pathetically horrible for all boxing fans. Absolutely embarrassing. Can I give you guys some numbers real quickly, though? I said I'm not going to go too much into what occurred on Friday, but guess what? I'm forced to, because guess what? After everything that happened on Friday and the slamming I gave it, saying, hey, you know what's going to happen here? We just saw 2 of the 5 worst amount of punches thrown in a fight in boxing combat or box history when that's been tracked now for 40 some years. And that was Haney, the 5th worst ever, when he had 214 thrown punches to Garcia's 285. Then we also had Garcia Romero, which had 210 to 280. And that was obviously the main event on that one fight. You have both those situations going on there. And so what I was going to say is, okay, how does that fight possibly come anywhere near what we just witnessed on Saturday? Well, guess what? Canelo Alvarez, William Scull broke the record previously held by Deontay Wilder and Parker, who landed 204 for Deontay Wilder, 255 for Joseph Parker. In that fight, can I just say this real quickly? Punches, this is thrown punches, by the way, not landed. In the fight, Canelo Alvarez only threw 152 punches on William Scull. William Scull threw 293. This is a 12-round fight, 36 minutes. Canelo Alvarez threw 152 punches. Take that as you want. It was embarrassing. Both are at fault. Neither deserve to win. But guess what? At the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez has a name. He has an image. He's the face of boxing. He's going to be able to move on just fine. He's going to go fight Bud Crawford. For William Scull, congratulations. You got your massive payday. And at the very, very same time, you also just tarnished your record and your resume going forward. You're not going to get a big fight anytime soon, nor do you deserve it. Embarrassing outing. Absolutely embarrassing. Let's go to the co-main event that night. And listen, I'll be honest. The Riyadh card, and can I just say this real quick before I actually go to the co-main event? There's a lot of people that want to bash Turki Al-Sheikh, and I've talked about this so many times. I'm sick of it. I don't get why. At the end of the day, he put these fights together. Did they come out and show out this past weekend? Absolutely not. They were horrible cards. On paper, they were fun. In reality, they were horrible. But I don't know why people are trying to crap on Turki Al-Sheikh for putting them together. It's not his fault the fighter decided to not show up. And I'm actually going to dive into that a little bit later, but I just want to say that real quickly. Co-main event was for the WBC Cruiserweight title. Badou Jack, Mickey Malian, they go to war, or they fight at least. And in that fight, Badou Jack ends up becoming victorious. He's your WBC Cruiserweight title holder now. What I'm going to say is this. I've said this time and time again. Whenever we have big Cruiserweight fights, I want to come away saying this. I watched these guys fight. Solid fighters. But there's a massive, massive gap between them and Zurdo and Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia is my favorite. I think he's the best by far in the Cruiserweight division. I think he's a pound-for-pound type of guy. That being said, Badou Jack is now a world champion at the age of 41. Very, very impressive. I did not think he was going to prevail the way he did. I think he looked a lot better for coming off a 2-year gap, also being 41 years old. However, I also did not have him winning that fight. Badou Jack, in my opinion, that should have either been a draw or the way I scored it was for Noel to come out on top and win that fight. It is what it is. It was a very, very close fight. I just viewed it personally as a draw or Noel Mickey Malian winning that fight. It is unfortunate, but guess what? I will be honest. Badou Jack performed way better than I thought he would. Being 2 years out, 41 years of age, and still becoming a world champion, very, very impressive. He does deserve his flowers for that fight. Let's go to the fight before that. Jaime Munguia, Bruno Suarce. This was an interesting fight. Let me say this about Jaime Munguia. When I watched this fight, he wins the rounds 116, 112, 117 to 111 on 2 of them. When I watched this fight, my opinion has changed since the conclusion of that fight, to be honest, a little bit. Rewatching it and kind of just digesting the fight with Jaime Munguia, that was the expectation. If we go back to what happened before the upset of the year last year, Jaime Munguia was dominating Bruno. There wasn't really a competition in that fight. There just wasn't. You know, it was Jaime Munguia putting on a masterclass until he got caught and a horrible KO to where he got put down right away. That's all that happened. Bruno, all due respect to him, he had the upset of the year last year. He has some talent, but he's not that guy. He's nowhere near top echelons of the guys at 168. Nowhere even near that group. He'll probably be a part of some decent fights going forward because of his name that he's built now, but he's not that guy. So the expectation here was for Jaime Munguia to put on a masterclass, and he did just that. But at the same time, I will be honest, this was a little bit closer than it should have been. I get he was nervous and tentative because he knows what Bruno was capable of doing to him. At the same time, I do like the way he changed. I think Robert Garcia, or I believe that his whole new training camp group was great for him. I believe being a part of Canelo's team was huge for him. I think it helped him out a ton. Eddie Reynoso, so I don't know why I said Robert Garcia earlier. Eddie Reynoso was huge for him. You could see the fingerprints all over the way he fought. That being said, this is not a win that I'm going to look at now and say Jaime Munguia is ready to go be that guy again, the top contender in the group. I think he did his job. He was supposed to win that fight. If he didn't win that fight, his career would have been just plummeted. So I think it was a good outing for Jaime Munguia. It was a solid card for him overall. But going forward, no, I don't see him in his position as being a top contender again. I think he needs one more win. There's lots of guys he could go fight, but that's why I personally have my statements on that one in. Let's go to this other fight that I really wanted to actually spend some time on. Martin Bakole, Efe Ajagba, declared majority decision. Not a good scorecard at all. I believe that Efe Ajagba won that fight, but beyond this, let me just go elaborate on this statement right now. Efe Ajagba should have won that fight. The fight was not entertaining, but he should have won that fight. When I look at what occurred in that ring, I witnessed a guy that gassed out in round 4, Martin Bakole. Outside of round 4, he probably did win a couple other rounds in that fight, in my opinion. But round 4 is the only fight that he looked like himself. Now, I'm hoping to have his trainer on very, very soon, probably in the next week or two, to break down what the heck went on here. Because Martin Bakole weighed in at just about 300 pounds. Let's call it 300, like 299.6. Let's call it 300 pounds. Martin Bakole, when he had his career best outing against Jared Anderson at Riyadh Season Card in LA on September 3rd, September 3rd, I believe it was. Yes, September 3rd. When that fight occurred, he weighed in at 290 or 284 pounds. When we look at the Joseph Parker fight, he weighed in at 315 pounds. But remember, he was called in 2 days before the fight started. So we had an excuse for that one. Him weighing in at 300 pounds for this fight was already concerning in and of itself. Now, you fast forward to the fight, he was gassing out. This was not the Martin Bakole we were expecting to see. And in fact, it's quite embarrassing to see the way that Martin Bakole performed in that fight. Not a big fan of what we witnessed whatsoever. Martin Bakole has the potential to be a very, very scary and legitimate threat at the heavyweight division, but for whatever reason, he does not want to cut the weight he needs to cut to stay dominant. And so in that fight, no, Efe Ajagba deserves to have the win there. We need to see a rematch there because neither guy is going to be able to move forward in this career. I think that was just not a good fight where he's going to make a big name for himself moving forward. Martin Bakole needs to get himself in shape. I don't know what you have to do overall. If Billy Nelson isn't doing his job, whatever it is, we need to make sure we have the situation set where Martin Bakole is doing his job and he cuts his weight. You cannot be weighing 300 pounds and stepping in that ring as a heavyweight. You can't be doing that. Efe Ajagba was moving around you and you were gassing out. And you wanted Efe Ajagba to go in and collide with you in the middle. Why would Efe Ajagba ever do that? Ajagba had the right game plan. Dance around the circles, get the man tired, and he's not going to be able to fight. And it worked. Now, for some reason, the scorecards gave them a job, but let's be honest, that was an Efe Ajagba win. So Martin Bakole has to make a career decision right now. Either he's going to take this thing seriously, or he's just going to not be able to experience what the full potential of his career and his potential is. That's his decision to make. A couple other fights I want to get into. Marco Verde made his debut. He looked very, very good. He's a silver medalist in the Olympics. First round KO. Looked good. He's got to keep an eye on going forward. And then Richard Riaporte. Richard Riaporte. He was a move to heavyweight, former cruiserweight. And let me be honest with you. I think he looked really, really good. I'm excited to see what he's going to have in store for us because I think moving to heavyweight, his body looked a lot stronger. He looked a lot more physical. He looked like he was at his peak self. Now, I'm not sure he's going to go accomplish great things at the heavyweight division, but what I will say is I think heavyweight's the right division for him to be fighting at. That's my personal opinion. I think he looked really, really good there. Form KO. We'll see what he's got going forward, but it was a very, very impressive performance. Now, listen, I'm going to separate the two different cards into segments. So I'm going to go on a quick break. I'll see you guys right after this break, and we'll get into the Inoue Cardenas card. See you guys shortly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, Zach SchuZ Shoemaker, and we got some more stuff to get into today. I got a few things. Make sure we got exactly what I want. Here we go. When I talk about what went down this weekend, there was highs and, well, there was lows and maybe even lower somehow, and then we came to Sunday night. The boxing world was quite shell-shocked and was not happy with how things were going at the moment in time, to say the least, to be honest. It was quite somber, to be honest, especially when you look at what happened a week ago on Saturday, and we saw the Chris Eubank fight, and all the hype was probably at an all-time high for a little bit there in terms of boxing. Not all-time high, but a very, very high mark for boxing after the Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn fight. And we fast forward then to what was going to be one of the most anticipated weekends in boxing, maybe even history, when we talk about all the names that were going to be fighting over the duration of 3 days. Day one comes and goes, and that was abysmal. Day two comes, and this somehow gets even worse. So here's the Sunday. We head to Las Vegas, and there is a card that's put together headed by Inoue, Cardenas. And people are optimistic here, but at the same time, we recognize that Inoue is an extremely high favorite, and so we think that could just be a quick and easy fight. And likewise with the rest of the card, it's just so much not sure. Well, I'm here to say now that, guess what? For those of you that love boxing, we are well aware that boxing is back. After what we witnessed last night, that was beautiful. That was what boxing truly is. That was the way you finish off a weekend. Not only finish it off as if everything else was good and put the cherry on top, but this was something that they had the pressure in a sense of rebounding from the abysmal, disastrous, embarrassing performances of Friday and Saturday night. And it sets us up for a situation where, guess what? They elevated it where they left us off on a high note. And so for all I can say right now, specifically, the entire card was actually quite well. But specifically, let me just give explicit round of applause to Inoue, Cardenas, Rafael Espinoza, Edward Vasquez. 4 guys that decided to step up on that main card and say, you know what we're going to do today? We're going to go to war. We're going to lay it all out there. We're going to give it everything we have, and we're going to show the world what actual boxing is. We did not witness that on Friday, and we most certainly did not witness that on Saturday. But we did on Sunday. Thank goodness we had that third chance, the third time's a charm, if you will say. There's a few things I'm going to get into right now. But how else do I possibly start this card off other than by discussing what happened in that main event? I just set the stage for you what was going on this weekend. And we head into the main event, where Inoue was a massive, massive favorite. And we get into that fight. We go through round 1, and then round 2 hits, and boom! Inoue gets dropped for just the second time of his career, and just the third time in his career he's ever even been hurt. And he gets dropped, and is significantly, I'd say, more shaken up this time around than he's ever been shaken up in his entire career. And all of a sudden, we recognize and say, holy cow, we might have a fight on our hands. And you know what we do? We do have a fight all the way up until the 8th round. And let me just say something really quickly. This fight saved the weekend. But I want to go and elaborate on something really quickly. There were 2 guys this weekend that had an opportunity to make a name for themselves. 2 guys that are going to be fighting future Hall of Famers, first ballot Hall of Famers, in Canelo Alvarez, Inoue. 2 guys had the opportunity to go shake up, possibly make a statement, or at least let people know who they are and set themselves up for a career moving forward. Even if they did not win the fight, they could have still emerged victorious in terms of the name that they now built for themselves in their careers going forward. Those 2 guys' names were William Scull and Ramon Cardenas. One guy decided to go out there and dance around for 12 rounds, and guess what? Going forward, he's now a disgrace to boxing, and nobody ever wants to see him fight again on any kind of significant card or have any big fight the rest of his career. While the other one, he got KO'd. Yeah, he got KO'd in the 8th round. But he laid everything out that he possibly had out there on the table last night. He went out there for 8 rounds, and guess what? Everybody's well aware that the ref had to do his job. Thomas Taylor had to go in there and stop the fight from happening because he knows that Ramon Cardenas was not going to step out of that room unless he was going to possibly die. That was what he was willing to do for that fight, to possibly go and beat Inoue in that fight. He was not going to back down, nor was his corner going to throw in the towel. Now, yes, I know they threatened him with that the round before, but listen, he was willing to die for that. And he put everything he possibly had on the line in that fight. And you know where we sit right now? In a position where, hey, guess what? Ramon Cardenas has a chance to do whatever he wants moving forward. Is he going to get a rematch with Inoue? Obviously, no, not that right now or anytime soon. But does he have a chance to have big fights at 122, or even that was rumored after the fight to possibly move down to 118? Absolutely. Ramon Cardenas is now embraced by fans. He's now loved by boxing fans. He has great support around the world for what he did and being a part of the fight that saved the weekend of boxing. You can pick which one you want. Do you want to be the guy that goes and leaves the fight unscratched, but danced around for 12 rounds and plummeted your career stock going forward? Or do you want to be the guy that's going to be remembered as a warrior that fought the way that Ramon Cardenas fought? That's up to you to decide. But what I do know is that Ramon Cardenas will have opportunities moving forward, and he earned the respect of all boxing fans. On the other side of that, I can't not go out there and talk about Naoya Inoue. I talked about him prior to the fight week building up, and I said Inoue is, in my opinion, he's my number one fighter in the world. But at the same time, I put him in the same tier as Bud Crawford Usyk. That opinion does not change. When people look at what Inoue did, yeah, he got dropped. But that's the way he fights. Inoue has always been a guy that's going to want to be on the attack. He's going to take some shots to land some shots. Now, his defense is great. Do not get that wrong. He knows how to do with the shoulder rolls. He knows how to be a great defensive fighter. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that Inoue will sometimes sacrifice some hits, and he doesn't have some exposure. That left hook has been what's always dropped him in previous fights. All 3 times he's been hurt has come off the left. He is susceptible to that. That is possible for him to get hit by that left. That's one of the weaknesses. But he's willing to take a hit to go and land some hits. And what we saw was he adjusted after he got knocked down, and he went on the attack, and then obviously had a great next few rounds leading up to the KO. Inoue is the guy that is one of one right now. He fights consistently. Already has a fight lined up now for MJ in Japan in September. Now, there's rumors that he's going to stay at 122 for a little bit longer than we maybe were expecting. Maybe not move him to 126 quite yet. I only believe it's going to be the case so that he can get the Junta Nakatani fight, and then he'll move up. Time will tell if that's true or not. That's what I do believe. But Inoue deserves his props. He is one heck of a fighter. Inoue is special. And it's time people start giving him his flowers. And can I just do a sidetracking note real quickly? Can we please stop the bogus talk about he's not going to keep moving up? We want him to go fight Tank. We want him to fight these other guys. Just cut it out, guys. I don't know why I feel like for the most part, American fans for boxing are so set on these random things of everyone has to become a superstar. No, you don't. That is not true. What the heck is that statement? And secondly, for a lot of people who are out there that want to go out there and say and make these statements of claims that, listen, when you talk about who these guys are, Inoue's already fought at 4 weight class. If he moves to 126, that's going to be his 5th weight class. Why? How many bodies can move with 5 weight classes? If we're going to hold Inoue that standard, then all these other guys that people want to love on in America should have the same exact standards then. And if they don't, then why are you after Inoue? It's ridiculous. Give Inoue his flowers while he still deserves them, while he's here fighting. The co-main event was also a war. WBO Featherweight Championship was on the line. Rafael Espinoza defends his belt, and he defeats Edward Vasquez by 7th round KO. Edward Vasquez was not very competitive. He had a couple good rounds there, but he laid it all out there. That man would not back down. He took hit after hit after hit. He had one heck of a fight. He gave it all he had. But what I want to say is Rafael Espinoza is a problem. When you talk about guys at 126, Rafael Espinoza, my goodness. His ability to fight the way he does at 6'1", the tallest featherweight champion of all time, and you look at the way he utilizes that height. Very, very similar to how Sebastian Fundora fights, I'd say. But that's a problem. When you're talking about these guys where he's going to be... I mean, if he fights Nick Ball in a unification fight, he's nearly a foot taller than Nick Ball. That's insane. So I think when you talk about these guys like Rafael Espinoza, he's going to be a tough guy to defeat at 126. He might, and I think he is legitimate. Like, he is a very, very, very good fighter. And he proved that last night once again. I'm not sure. Obviously, the fight we could go make there. I know we talked about Inoue. I don't think Inoue's moving up quite yet. Bruce Carrington makes sense right there, and I like Bruce Carrington a lot. I do think he's going to be a world champion one day. However, Rafael Espinoza is going to be a tough guy to defeat. Let's go to the prelims real quickly now. Rohan Polanco, he defeats Fabian Andres by a unanimous decision, 100-89 on all 3 cards right there. Dominant outing right there. And let me just say this. Rohan Polanco is a problem. He is going to be a legitimate threat at welterweight. I think it's only a matter of time until he's a world champion. I talked about the fact that welterweight is constantly moving in the right side. Now, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney did not do any favors on Friday night in terms of that growth of making 147 big again. However, Rohan Polanco made a statement. He is one of the top prospects in all boxing. He's one of the most exciting up-and-comers. It's only a matter of time until this man is a world champion, in my opinion. He is powerful. He has the skill, he has the technique. He was in the mode last night. He fought a brilliant fight. He made a statement. And I think we're talking about possibly, I could see him get a world championship shot. Maybe by the end of not the end of this year. I see him by 2026 spring or summertime. He'll be there. This guy is on the rise. He's going to be a problem. Emiliano Vargas, he defeats Juan Leon, second round TKO. Another guy that I'm very, very high on. A great, great prospect. He has a lot of the traits where he's going to see himself skyrocket as a star. He has the personality, the charisma, but also has the power. He has the ability to fight. I think this is a guy that we're talking about him being a legitimate problem in the super lightweight division. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit of time away still, but he is coming. He's a good fighter, and I think we're going to see him continue to rise, and the stock's going to continue to rise in the future. A couple of the fights were great on that card, but obviously we've discussed so many fights now from this past weekend. Ray Salim, he comes to mind. He had a great performance overall. I think he's going to be good. There's a few other fights that happened this weekend. Like I said, there's so many fights that occurred. I can't get into them all this weekend. Let's get into a few more things, though. I did mention this when we talked about Top Rank's card that saved the weekend on Sunday night. I want to make sure I say something now because I alluded to it a little bit ago saying, okay, what's the reason why did Turkey's cards not pan out this weekend? Overall, his cards traditionally do pan out. And I'm sick of the hate. I really don't get why people want to hate on so many things in boxing. I just enjoy the stuff. I really don't get it. I'm mind-boggling why people want to put such a big fit towards Turkey Al-Sheikh in these things. I just like boxing. If he's going to put on an extra boxing card that I can go watch, especially one that has great names on it, why am I going to complain about this? It just is ridiculous. Absolutely outlandish. Guys are also getting paid big money. That's the part that I want to elaborate on, though. We saw on Friday and Saturday these guys that were getting paid big money not want to go out there and fight for anything. And it's been traditionally studied. We know this, that when fighters start to get that real money, it becomes a lot more difficult to go out there and fight. When you reach a certain amount of money and you are set for life and you have generational wealth, getting punched in the face is not something that a lot of guys want to go out there and do. Let's just be honest. And so you see that hunger, which is so necessary in boxing, start to go away a little bit. Now, not always for guys, but for a lot of guys. And I just wonder, is part of the reason that we're seeing some of these abysmal performances by these guys that are on massive stages, getting paid big money, and have big opportunities in front of them, are they starting to become content with what they're at because of the paychecks that they're receiving? That's a question that I cannot answer, but I do wonder that. Because there is too many of these guys that are getting massive opportunities not go out there and perform. And so I have to wonder, is the bag so high that these guys are no longer wanting to perform? That's an answer that you have to give, or we have to ask these guys. Because it is quite interesting. All right, though. A lot of guys on my pound for pound tiers were fighting this past weekend. I want to give you guys my updated pound for pound tiers. Now, for those of you that are new to the show, here's how I break this down. I do not go by pound for pound rankings. I think that for me, it's much easier to see guys on certain tiers. I think that when you look at it, it becomes a lot simpler. I think there's a lot less debate to be made. And when you go by pound for pound rankings, I really am neck and neck. For me, I have Inoue number one pound for pound rankings. However, the gap between what his resume is and Bud and Usyk is so small. Where if you tell me, no, you're wrong, Inoue's number 3, Bud's number 1, Usyk's 2, Usyk's 1, Bud's 2, whatever it is, I'll look at you and say, you know what? You might be very, very right. I've got no problem with your statement there. And so that's why I like to go by tiers. So here's my updated tiers because I do have a lot of changes here. Number 1 remains unchanged, though. Usyk, Bud, Inoue, right there. None of these things are in order, by the way. These are all out of order. This is just stating my pound for pound tiers right at the gate. If I rank however they are, there's no rankings within the tiers. All right, so let's clarify that. Let's go right back to it now. My tiers go like this. At the tier number 1, Usyk, Bud, Inoue remains unchanged, as does the tier number 2 between Bivol and Beterbiev remain unchanged. Tier number 3 does change now. Bam Rodriguez is now in tier 3 all by himself following Canelo's disastrous performance. I don't want to move Canelo. At the same time, Canelo has not had a big fight in multiple years. Canelo also did not do himself any favors in that fight where he did not cut off the ring. He did not show his pound skills in that fight. I have to drop Canelo down 1 tier. He could move back up against Bud Crawford, but for the time being, Canelo Alvarez does not belong in tier number 3 at the moment because he's now at tier number 4, which involves Canelo Alvarez, Junto Nakatani, Shakur Stevenson, Taraji, David Benavidez. Lots of guys in that group, but a lot of guys that all have the potential to move up, but this is where I have them at right now. Number 5 also does not remain changed as Teofimo Lopez, Ron Boots Ennis, Devin Haney, Tank, and Loma. Those guys make up tier number 5 for me. Tier number 6, Janabek, Opataya, Virgil Ortiz. That's where I've got tier number 6. Tier number 7 does change as I add one name into that group, Zurdo, Yabuki, Navarrete, and welcome to my pound for pound tiers, Rafael Espinoza. That is my pound for pound tiers. This has a chance at changing next weekend. As we know, Emmanuel Navarrete will be fighting this weekend, so there's a chance that he could be moving up or down. Not really up. I won't move him up if he wins. He could be moving out of my rankings if he loses. That's what I've got for my updated pound for pound tiers as of today on this great May the 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo, by the way. I forgot to say that to you guys in the introduction. Let's get right back to this now. I got a couple more things I want to get into. One of which is as I said, Eduardo, I appreciate your comment, and I will address that right now. Eduardo said, for those that do not see the comment, Canelo is going to KO Crawford. Well, that's what I want to talk about right now because it was announced following the fight. Pretty much already known, but whatever. Canelo Alvarez will face Terrence Bud Crawford at the Legion Stadium in Las Vegas on September 12th. The keynote here is that this will be the very first TKO promoted event, meaning that Dana White will be leading this card and the structure and all that stuff is going to be set by Dana White. Let's get into this now. Eduardo, you believe that Canelo will KO Crawford. My opinion on that? I'm not so sure about that anymore. When this fight was first being discussed and rumored, I said you're probably right. I don't see a path for Crawford to beat Canelo. Did you guys watch Canelo this weekend? Canelo, maybe the fact was that Canelo just did not want, it was early in the morning. Canelo also was in a position where, hey, he's looking at himself and saying, I don't want to chase this guy around. This is ridiculous. This guy did not come to fight. I'm not built up for this fight because Williams doesn't have a big name either. Maybe that's why. But at the same time, Canelo did not look good. Canelo also did not throw many punches at all. He is getting older as well, not Bud Crawford is too, so I'm not going to use age as a big thing here. But the biggest thing I always said about Canelo is that, listen, Bud Crawford is a better pound-for-pound fighter right now, today, at this point in time. When they fight, he will be better. Canelo's biggest advantage is his size. Now, maybe our opinions differ on this now, but when I looked at that face-off, you can't tell me that the weight and the size difference was that drastic. I don't think that the weight difference in the size difference between Bud Crawford and Canelo is going to be as significant as we are to believe that right now. They look very identical in the height and weight and size right there when they faced off. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different. They're not in fight shape. We'll see what happens when they step in the ring. But I don't believe that the size is as significant as we once thought it to be. So when you say Canelo's going to KO Crawford, it's boxing. Of course, it could happen. But I'll be honest. At this point in time, I'm more so in line with believing that Bud Crawford has a legitimate chance than I've ever thought in this entire build-up process. And we still have about, 4 months out from when it happens? I'm not going to sit up here and make my statement, my bold prediction right now. It's way, way too early in my opinion. But what I will say is after the way Canelo performed on Saturday and seeing how big Canelo did, or the lack thereof, size difference between Canelo and Bud Crawford in the ring when they faced off, makes me really more optimistic that Bud Crawford has a legitimate chance now, more so than I ever believed beforehand. We'll see what happens there. But yes, Canelo Alvarez will be facing Bud Crawford on September 12th in Las Vegas at the Legion Stadium. That should be a big fight there, folks. I am very excited to see what the undercard does look like, though. I'm excited also to see what TKO is actually going to be like. There's so many rumors, so many discussions, not a lot of information and facts. I'm somebody that likes facts, and so we'll see what happens. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what occurs there, though. Couple other things. PBC is trying to make a fight between Jermell Charlo and Keith Thurman for the summer. Now, according to reports, this is what's happening, though. Jermell Charlo has agreed to the fight already. The only problem is that Keith Thurman hasn't answered yet. Is this a fact? I can't confirm that. That's been what's been reported, though. It's a solid fight, though. Charlo's going to make his return very, very shortly now. I think he'll get past that win pretty easily. Keith Thurman's a good next step up. Both guys are obviously guys that were great in their time, and they're trying to work their way back up. The winner obviously puts themselves up for a mega fight, or a big fight, at least championship fight, maybe even, following victory. The loser's in a position where retirement is very, very likely. We'll see what ends up unfolding. They're not against that fight. I actually think it's actually a good step up. I think it's actually the exact fight that needs to be made for those two guys, so I do like that. Last thing for today's show Anthony Joshua has said that he will have a little surgery on his elbow sometime in May. The surgery will mean that he is now out of the gym for 6 to 8 weeks, and after the surgery, he will be working on his return. Perfect. You want to know why? Surgery, I don't know what happened, how it all occurred, why the injury occurred. That is what it is. Here's what I do want to say, though. We've always looked at the timeline. We know Tyson Fury AJ has to be next. Likely the end of this year, early next year. 6 to 8 weeks, okay, that gives us, let's say, 2 months. That gets us to July time span. Okay, early July. A training camp is typically, now you have to probably book the fight or whatever. So let's say August. Then you can go to training camp for, 8 weeks, maybe it's 3 months training camp, whatever it is. This fight seems to be more and more likely that he's going to be waiting for the Tyson Fury fight. And I don't see why not. That's the biggest fight to make in boxing. That is the fight to make for domestically. And for those two guys to share the ring together has to happen. I think that's the fight that's going to occur. And I think we're going to get closer and closer to that occurring. Hopefully, AJ recovers healthy. I don't know exactly what the elbow injury is. Hopefully, he recovers all right, though. With that being said, though, I appreciate you guys all for tuning in today. As I said, the Abel Mendoza interview, lots of technical difficulties occurred there and throughout the show as well. But a lot of issues there. I'll make sure to get that edited out and fixed up and posted separately so you guys can watch that cleanly. Hopefully everything else came in all right there. But I will see you guys tomorrow on Tuesday's show. May God bless you guys all. Have a great rest of you guys Monday. I will see you guys tomorrow. SchuZ is out. God bless you guys, and SchuZ is out.